The history of radio is a long and pretty complicated affair, with over 130 years of history stretching out over different countries, languages, and 2 world wars. To tackle explaining it in, 10 minutes would be a pretty insane undertaking that only a madman would attempt. So here's the entire history of radio in 10 minutes. Ish. Radio.co. Our story kicks off a long time ago. No, not quite that far. 1865 to be precise, when James Maxwell from Scotland came up with the bright idea of electromagnetic waves shimmying through the air like stinky farts on a breeze. Our story then fast forwards a bit. No, not that far. In 1886, Heinrich Hertz, a German genius, published some results proving that Maxwell was right. A pure scientific breakthrough that would literally go on to change the course of history. For the following 20 years, scientists became obsessed with what was then known as Hertzian waves, later radio waves, experimenting with transmitting and receiving them in different scenarios. Meanwhile, an Italian inventor called Guglielmo Marconi set about proving just how powerful this new technology could be by sending Morse code through Hertzian waves across long distances. His tests proved that this new discovery could go beyond the 4 walls of a building to different countries and across the entire world as a communications system. In 1897, he opened the first ever radio station on the Isle of Wight, but this station wasn't for playing Taylor Swift and keeping the tunes coming, but sending messages to Europe. Another much more powerful station was later opened in Cornwall in the UK to send signals all the way to Canada. His technology was also used to communicate with ships, famously assisting in the rescue of the Titanic. A little fact for you there. Meanwhile, Canadian inventor Reginald Fessenden began working on a CW transmitter, leading to the world's first ever audio transmission on Christmas Eve 1906. At the same time, the American inventor Lee D. Forrest produced the first AM transmission, a type of broadcast that's still used today. It was by this time that the term radio waves also began appearing in instruction manuals and scientific chatter, but I don't think it will catch on.
Wait a minute, something's happening.
Over the next 20 years, countries across the globe began broadcasting, with pretty limited success. You see, the problem with broadcasting radio is there's not much point doing it if no one actually has a radio to listen. That's not to say that no one at all was listening, however. In fact, World War I helped evolve radio massively as commanders began to use the new technology to gather intel and speak to others across the battlefields over Europe. It was also around this time that different countries began regulating radio, noticing the potential for it to be used by bad actors. In 1917, the FCC, the American regulator, closed all radio stations not needed by the US government to help with the war effort. After the war in the 1920s, the new leaps in radio tech expanded to the living rooms of ordinary people too. With the tech becoming more affordable, families started making the investment to buy one or even rent one. The listening experience was also massively improved from headphones only, with the invention of loudspeakers in 1926. Which sounds great, but 100 years later, I'm listening to people watching TikToks on the tram at full volume. Thanks, guys. In 1922, the British Broadcasting Company, or the BBC to those not currently drinking tea, began broadcasting in London, going on to become a radio institution still massively important today. Then in 1933, FM radio was introduced by Edwin Armstrong as a means of broadcasting far more local stations on a less busy frequency. It took a while for this new frequency to be adopted, but the groundwork was laid for adoption that once again still gets used today in homes and cars across the world. I mean, I've got DAB in my car, but the signal goes so often that I might as well just have FM. It's that reliable. By 1938, radio was like the ChatGPT of its time, and everyone and their mums was hooked. It's here that we also have our first big radio trend in the form of radio plays. And the most famous case of a radio play going viral was Orson Welles' adaptation of War of the Worlds, in which a science program about space inadvertently captured the moment aliens invaded on Halloween. It was so convincing that American listeners famously thought it was real, leading to outrage in the newspapers the following day. In fairness, I would be pretty terrified too if I turned on the radio expecting Dua Lipa and heard this.
Lord, they're turning into flames.
Blimey. By the end of the 1930s, a little known event called World War II began to get quite a lot of attention. Like with the First World War, armies on both sides now relied on radio for communications, but now radio's use was expanded for altogether different reasons. The Nazis famously relied on media for propaganda, distributing 9 million radio sets across the Reich as radio became a vital tool in retaining power. In the UK too, radio was used to rally the war effort. The BBC even launched a London Calling Europe station as a means of reaching and providing information to Nazi-occupied countries. Propaganda stations were also set up to broadcast to enemy territories and spread misinformation. The aim here was to trigger division and chaos, a little bit like how X works today. Once the war was over, people were in desperate need of some fun. And radio definitely delivered here. More and more radio stations began popping up across the world with different formats spanning news, music, sport, and drama. It's hard to overstate the cultural impact of radio during this time. Just some of the key events that people heard through the radio were Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech in 1963 and Neil Armstrong's famous words as he stepped from the Apollo 11 spacecraft during the moon landing of 1969. However, a lot of radio during this time was definitely more catered to older audiences. And by the 1960s, illegal broadcasts, or pirate radio, began to gain traction. In the UK, the popularity of pirate radio forced the BBC to expand their content variety massively, leading to the launch of BBC Radio 1, a station aimed at popular and current music trends. And this is still their flagship station today, so it was a pretty good decision. By the end of the 1960s, commercial radio was also becoming popular, allowing for a wider range of choice to appear on people's radio sets. By 1973, the UK government ended the BBC monopoly as well, allowing LBC and Capital FM to begin broadcasting. The 50s, 60s and 70s are usually known as the golden age of radio, when what happened on the radio waves was deemed to make as much cultural impact as what happens on TV or online today. Speaking of which, the invention of radio obviously led to the creation of television transmissions too, but I won't get onto TV today, maybe on World TV Day, whenever that is. But it's important to remember that video obviously didn't kill the radio star and instead adapted from what TV did better, such as dramas, and focused more on like the music charts, DJ chatter, and just being a companion on in the background. Something that it still excels at today. In fact, radio had, and still, produces a lot of radio stars. Big hosts like Howard Stern, Terry Wogan, and Craig Charles are all household names from just their voice alone. In the late 90s, DAB, a form of digital radio, popped onto the scene, allowing for an even greater choice of stations and for more information to be sent than with FM or AM. While DAB is popular in some parts of the world, it never truly took off like AM or FM did, and it's actually the next step in radio's evolution that became the new listening standard. With the rise of the internet in the 80s, 90s and 2000s came the most recent innovation in radio: online radio. With physical radios disappearing, radio needed a way to survive, and getting into people's computers and later smartphones was the obvious next step. Plus, unlike pirate radio, streaming illegally, internet radio was completely legal and, for smaller stations, a great way to jump on. All the big brands quickly started getting involved too, offering online versions of their traditional broadcast stations. Also, a whole new subgenre, podcasts, you might have heard of them, also rose to fame during this time. Some consider podcasts entirely separate from radio, but in the early days they were just essentially online radio shows without the music. These days, with the incorporation of video into podcasts too, it's almost like radio and TV had a baby. So basically, with no airwaves to manage, online radio allows anyone with a bit of time and passion to create their own radio station. In 2015, a cloud-based way of creating a radio station was set up called Radio.co. Launched by James Mulvaney and a team of radio enthusiasts, this platform allows everyone worldwide to create a radio station in just a few minutes. All you need is an idea, an internet connection, and you could make a station about literally anything from 70s rock tunes to current affairs in Japan and even sleep music for your dogs, if that's your thing. Never before had broadcasting on a 24/7 global scale been this simple. This new online freedom has taken radio to new heights and kept it relevant, with the likes of Spotify and smart speakers popping onto the scene. Today is World Radio Day, a day to celebrate everything that radio has been and will become. From this brief video, I'm sure you get the idea that if anything, radio is adaptable. A number of times now, critics have signaled the death of radio. But while it might be different to what it was at its inception, radio will always survive. Why? Well, it's just joyous, isn't it? It's one of the most inclusive entertainment formats out there, giving everyone, no matter their background, beliefs or race, a voice. It can provide light in dark times, such as during World War II, or the recent COVID pandemic. And most importantly, it's accessible, especially now. In Rajar's Q4 2025 listening stats, 86% of the UK population tuned into radio every week, and 75% tune in digitally. So radio is far from dead. It's booming. If you'd like to be the next part of radio's history, why not head over to Radio.co and start your own station today? You could book a 7-day free trial or even get signed up for a free demo with one of our team and receive a special discount just for attending. Links, as always, are in the description below. But until next time, thank you very much for watching, happy broadcasting, and happy Radio Day. Oh, and stop the clock. Whew.